Okay, I'm gonna test what this sounds like. I think we're live. In the meantime, I'm just going to post some links and hold on just a second while I get a couple links set up and then we'll get started with this. Welcome to everybody who's showing up. This is my return to Racing Rundown. I have been away for the last 2 weeks. I am, for reference, 5 hours off an airplane. The way I would describe things right now is I feel like I got run over by an airplane. Rightfully so. It is 2 o'clock to me right now. Eric mentioned that I was on vacation the last couple weeks. I was in Ireland for the last 2 weeks. I think I said that, but I'm not quite sure. So, um, for reference, I was in Ireland. So right now, to me, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Definitely have not yet adjusted back to normal time for the United States, but I wasn't going to not talk about the Travers. So we're going to get some of the groundwork laid and then bring on people who I mentioned that we were going to bring on. I'm not quite sure if Eric's going to be joining us on this. I was trying to work out some details, and then things kept getting pushed back because I didn't get home as early as I thought I was going to, and then things are going on. So I'm just going to finish putting a tweet out, and then we will get started talking about, or I'll lay out what we're going to talk about, and then we'll get into talking about some of the races that will obviously be happening this weekend on this very important Travers card. So, I mentioned that I was going to be giving out my picks on this one. So I didn't give out picks last week because I didn't feel like trying to rush them when I was in Europe because I don't like the results of or when I try to rush races. So I just didn't do last week, and last bit of course, the week that I decide not to do, I just for ha-has decided to pick the races myself, and the week that it doesn't count, I hit everything. So I'm not going to go through all the races I hit because I don't feel like bragging. But unfortunately, the week I choose to take off is a week that I end up doing very well on the races in. So that was very annoying. But we are going to get into some of the stuff, and I'm actually going to give out a couple of my picks for the state graded stakes at Charlestown tonight, just because we are actually a hour or so away from that. I don't know the exact time of them, but I did want to get picks in for the Charlestown Oaks and Charlestown Classic, so I will write those out in this right now. Charlestown Oaks, I'm going to be picking Divine Hunt, the Acorn behind Matarea. So in the Charlestown Oaks, my pick is going to be Divine Huntress, and I'm going to write down the way this is going to work out is I'll write down in the description everything that we're doing. So currently, what we're about at the moment in the live stream that will be there, and then I will continue to update it over the course of what we're talking about. I'm also going to post links to everything else that was on Racing Rundown this week. Eric did a preview of the Travers as well as the normal Racing Rundown episode for this week. So I will have links for those in just a moment. But before anything else, I want to put in my picks for the races at Charlestown. So in the Charlestown Oaks, Divine Huntress. And if I spelled that wrong, I don't think I spelled it wrong, but if for some reason I spelled that wrong again, I am 5 hours off an airplane and it is 2 o'clock in the morning to me. So I do apologize if I do spell any, and during the course of this live stream, if I do spell anything wrong during the course of it, forgive me for that because I am obviously very recently off an airplane and was very recently in Europe. So um, we'll get and as I mentioned, we'll get into some of the major races, and we'll obviously spend more time on the big stuff. I don't really want to talk about the Charlestown races that much. I just wanted to get my picks in for that. For the classic, I'm going to go with Art Collector. You could. I thought about making the case for officiating there because officiating kind of seemed like more of a sprinter throughout the entirety of his career, and then the stakes win at Prairie Meadows kind of came out of nowhere. But this Charlestown is such a weird configuration that it wouldn't surprise me if he was able to win this race. But at the end of the day, Art Collector is just the type of horse that he can he won this race so easily last year, and it seems like he's just better than this group. So I'm not going to complicate things. I'm just going to take our collector in this race. Eric and I kind of view this in the same way. And his win in the Alidar, the race back before this, was a very strong effort for him. So that is another reason to go with our collector in this spot. And so that's going to be my picks in the two races from Charlestown. And then we're not going to do the full card of the Travers. I thought about potentially doing that, but I decided against it because I was originally going to be able to have the benefit of doing these races on the airplane, and the Wi-Fi in the airplane decided to not work. So, fortunately, I lost the 3 hours of time that I was going to devote on the plane to doing that. Was not able to do so, and as a result, I am kind of rushing to put this together toward the end, which I don't love to rush to put together races, but this is a very chalky card. So I didn't, and I obviously wasn't going to cancel the live stream. So I can get away with kind of throwing together stakes picks very easily because there's only one race where I'm taking a horse that is not either favored or going to be a very short price in their respective race. So, and that race is the Sword Dancer, which is the most bettable race on the card. Gee, what a surprise. Another time that a turf stake with these incredibly inconsistent turf males is the most bettable race on a card. What a surprise. Of course, you can I don't even know why I'm being sarcastic there because I do like these kind of races because even though inconsistent horses can be annoying in terms of, you don't know how races are going to go. Those types of races generally turn out to be better because from the betting perspective, you can make cases for all these different horses, which you can make a case for a vast majority of the field in the Sword Dancer. And I'm sure we'll spend plenty of time doing that when we are on to that race. And then the one other race that I'll get out of the way, we might talk about this a little bit later, but I just want to get it out of the way right now, is the Pat O'Brien at Del Mar. Just like Eric, I'm going to be joining him on Speaker's Corner in this race. And it feels weird, and I was thinking about this before I started recording that American Theorem has won back-to-back races really nicely, and he's not going to be favored in this race. And it's rightfully so because Speaker's Corner is very, he's very good when he's not running against Freaky Flightline. Freaky Life is good. And I said that, good on Bill Mott for giving him the opportunity, not just running him against Jackie's Warrior. Now, Godolphin can try their hands with Cody's Wish so they can get away with not running him there. But, they very easily could have said, we'll take a third grade one placing with Speaker's Corner. But instead of a third grade one placing, they're going to send him out to Del Mar, run him in the Pat O'Brien, take their Breeders' Cup berth, which I don't really see a reason why he's not going to run in the Breeders' Cup dirt mile. They'll take that berth, put that in their back pocket, and then whatever Speaker's Corner does the rest of the year, we'll see what happens there. I do have to excuse myself also. You may or may not be able to hear it in my voice. I actually got sick while I was in France. I don't know what I had. I might have had the flu. I might have had something else, but I was sick for the vast majority of my time in France. You might still be able to hear it in my voice. Of course, I have my water next to me, and I'm going to have to frequently pause to take that because still recovering from that. And I certainly have not done this much talking for a large amount of time. So if you're just joining us, we're going to be discussing the races on the Travers card. Unfortunately, not the full card. There is one, in addition to the stakes race, there is one race I do want to give thoughts on, and I believe that's the seventh race, but we're not doing the whole card. At it, I wanted to, but because I wasn't able to do the full card on the airplane, and I had laid out the time to do that on the plane, unfortunately, as a result of Delta not having working Wi-Fi, I wasn't able to put that together, and I kind of had to, as I was mentioning earlier, I kind of had to throw picks for this card together. But this was a very easy card to. If this was the card that you were going to have to throw picks together for, that was a good thing because lots of short fields not necessarily. There's some short fields obviously, but a lot of heavy favorites that you're going to be taking in these races, and it just this card lended itself very well to being one to not have to go too deep in, and that was certainly very fortunate. But I mentioned that the one race we are going to talk about, in addition to the state races, is race number 7. We'll get to that a little bit later. And as I mentioned right now, I'm going to, or before we do anything else, I'm just going to I want to get a link into the Travers video. So if you haven't checked that out yet, you can go do that. I had the new formula and I was going to try to do that, but there was just not enough time for me to do it. I needed to get it out before I got out of Ireland last night, and I didn't fly overnight, but I needed to get it out so that I could just be done with editing the video. So didn't want to have to upload it the way that I did, but I didn't really have a choice. So the link that I just posted is for that. I'll put Travers preview under that. Excuse me. And then I will also post a link to this week's Racing Rundown episode. Let me just go grab that. My computer is being rather slow in terms of getting links ready for me. So there might be a few moments of delay with dealing with that, but we'll just have to make do with what the technology is going to do. I'm supposed to be getting a new computer next week. Although I mentioned that I have been supposed to be getting a new computer for the last 3 months, so we'll see if that ends up actually happening. But the plan is that if I do get that new computer, it's going to make it a lot better to record live stream stuff with. That doesn't necessarily mean that live streams are going to happen more often. We usually only do them on these big cards, and the only reason I'm doing this Travers one is just because I wasn't on the Travers episode this week. Just certainly with me being in Europe was not going to be practical. And I just got a text from Eric. Eric unfortunately will not be joining us, but fortunately Eric was solo on this Racing Rundown episode this week. So if you want his thoughts, you can also you can go check out the episode of Racing Rundown this week, get his full thoughts on everything. We are also going to talk about the Ballerina. I told Eric not to talk about that because we talk about that on this live show. So I'll badger him for his Ballerina pick so we can get that on the record. And then everything else from, and if there's time, I can get into the stuff that happened last weekend. But I mean, what is there to say that hasn't already been said about last weekend? Nest is very good. I've maintained for the longest time that she wins the Kentucky Oaks with a competent ride. And my contention was that she didn't have a good ride. And I think that Nest has just continued to prove that with how well she has run subsequent from the from the Kentucky Oaks. Belmont Stakes included among her 2 Grade 1 wins at Saratoga. I'm fully prepared to pick her to win the Breeders' Cup Distaff. That's obviously very far down the road, and I'm not interested to get into that right now just because I don't like to pick races 2 months in advance. But as of this moment, I mean, we're going to see this weekend in the Personal Ensign. And I will talk about this more with this race, but I actually think I'm not crazy about any of the mares in that race in terms of, I don't look at them and say that's a dominant horse in the division. Like I'll take Clairiere. I don't look at Clairiere and say Clairiere is having a dominant divisional championship type. I mean, she's going to probably win the divisional champion. If she wins this race, she's likely locked up divisional honors, but that doesn't excuse me, what Clairiere has done this year does not necessarily strike me as a horse that I look at and say, yeah, that's a sure thing Breeders' Cup winner. But we'll get more to that when we get on to the Personal Ensign. Just hold on one second. I do have to do a couple of things. I'm going to edit the thumbnail because the thumbnail that I wanted for this live show did not save. When does it ever do that? Because YouTube is obnoxious and annoying, but that's completely beside the point. Getting to just laying out anything else that we're going to do on this. I didn't put together triples or anything for these races. Again, I kind of have my thoughts on them. If depending on the races, I mean, some won't have to, but we are probably going to go very deep into some of these races. And there might just be some races where we just go into every single horse. So we'll play it by ear here. We've got time. Again, as I said, I do feel like I got run over by an airplane, so we're probably not going to go for 3 hours. I would not like to go for 3 hours because I need to sleep at some point because I've been flying all day, but we will spend our fair share of time on these races and give them their due. And without any further delay, I'll bring on our one of our guests for this live stream. I think that he is, I don't know if anybody else is going to be showing up, but I'll bring him on right now, or at least I'll send him a text and I'm going to bring him on and tell him to be ready. But Road Warrior 627, as I tweeted, is going to be joining us. So I will have him on in a couple of moments and we will start off with talking about the stakes races from this Travers meet. So just hold on and he will be ready to be with us momentarily. And then we'll get into this. So just hold on one moment. And then I will also say I'm not sure how stuff is going to work out for the rest of the year. I do have the whole show plan, the whole podcast schedule planned out, but there's a lot of stuff that specifically that first weekend in October that is all over the place. You have everything that's going on in the United States, and then you also have major stuff that's going on in Europe. So I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to work that out. Irish Champions Weekend is also in a couple weeks. I want to do a lot of stuff with that, but that also coincides with stuff at Del Mar. So, I'm still playing around with how that's going to work out, but we're going to do a good chunk of Europe stuff. Racing Run on Around the World had to be put on hold for a couple of weeks. I didn't do it the week of the Travers just because I couldn't do it with the amount of time that I was spending doing stuff while I was up in Saratoga. And then I obviously was off for the last couple of weeks. So um, didn't happen. It's going to return next week. I think it's uh, I honestly don't remember what the name of the race is. It's some sprint race. I don't remember the name's escaping me at this point, but that's going to be the next thing we're going to do next week, and then obviously that'll lead into, in addition to Irish Champions, there's also the Ledger, the Irish Ledger. So we're going to do our fair amount of stuff from Europe, and I'm not sure what's going to be covered on Racing Rundown, what's going to be covered on the episode, what's going to be covered on YouTube, and all that stuff. But that's I'm just kind of previewing what's ahead for the next couple of weeks and later on down the road. And with that said, I'm going to bring on my friend Andrew, otherwise known as Road Warrior 627. So uh, I don't know if you can hear me, Andrew, but if you can hear me, welcome to Racing Rundown, and thank you for taking the time to join me on this. If you can hear me, and if you can't hear me, well, I'm sure you will in a few moments.
What's up, buddy?
Not me in an airplane, that's for sure.
And not me in a hospital bed, so we're both in better places.
Yes, and I will say we are very glad that you are doing better and that nothing is seriously wrong with you, and I'm sure you are as well.
Oh, absolutely. I could think of a lot better places to be, and sitting at my computer talking about some great races is definitely one of them.
Yeah, so we'll start off with the first stakes race on this card. I'm not sure how much you were listening. I was thinking about doing full stuff on the card. If you have stuff that you I can give you the floor for the next couple of minutes if you want to talk about that. I personally don't have them just because I wasn't able to take the time and I don't want to throw stuff together. But if you have stuff you want to give out, the floor is yours to talk about whatever you want to in the earlier part of the card.
Yeah, I was definitely listening, and that's actually fine with me. I'm just going to point out a couple of things, a couple of the stronger opinions I have, but a lot of them I didn't, so you're actually saving me a lot of effort. Thank you. So race number 1, I would take the Chad and Jose horse on the outside, the first-time starter for Gun Runner. Love the way the Gun Runners have been running, especially first time out, so I'd take that one. I think you'll get a pretty square price at 7-2. Especially with Asmussen in there. And then in the second race, I would just box the 2 Todds and Chad in there. But otherwise, that's it. And both of those pretty light plays. I wouldn't go deep heavy. I'd like to mention one thing at the end for the race after the Travers, the 12th race. Or would you like me to do that now?
You can do that whenever you please.
I'll just do it right after we talk about the Travers then, because that will keep it in order.
All right, so are you ready to go on and talk about the first stakes race on this card?
I am pumped. Let's go.
Yes, the Ballston Spa. And what else is new? Chad Brown has a third of a graded stakes race on the turf, and it's a 5-horse field. So, where have we seen this before? Oh, I don't know. Half the stakes races on the turf at Saratoga this summer. Oh, geez, what else is new? So, where are you going in this race? Are you taking the easy route, or are you having a little bit of fun in this race?
I'm taking the Andrew approach, and the Andrew approach is picking Chad, but not picking the shortest price Chad. And that horse, who is not the shortest price Chad, is Lamista. I would really like that race down at Monmouth last time. I saw it in person. I think technical analysis is really good, but I also thought she got a real nice run of the race in the Diana, the way it shaked out. Kind of just was tracking off of uh, an Italian, just kind of came and got second. I didn't think it was a crazy good effort. Of course, that was a grade one and the one down at Monmouth. Don't get me started with the American Graded Stakes Committee, because I don't really care what grade a race is. I just care if I'm impressed. And I wasn't really impressed by technical analysis enough to say that she should be even money and Lamista should be 3-1. I can't take Fluffy Socks because she barely ever wins. So she's out as far as a win candidate is concerned. This is a race I would never actually play unless Lamista was in the, let's say, 4-1 or greater range, which I don't think you're going to get. So, no, I don't like this race at all. I think that she can be possibly the most forward of the three Chads, which can help her. However, technical analysis has gone to the lead in the past. I'm not sure why she was further back in the Diana. Maybe that was just Chad's master plan within Italian to be totally loose by herself. I don't know. But I will take Lamista with a gun to my head. Would never bet this race.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'd never bet this race either. I'm going to take the easy route and go with technical analysis in this race just because I don't see a reason not to. That's the lamest way to ever pick a race. I don't see a reason not to. I do it all the time, but, how can you. I just don't see a reason why after the Diana effort, technical analysis, and she's getting a group that frankly doesn't like to win. I mean her two stablemates, Fluffy Socks, has decided that she doesn't want to win anything for the rest of her career. Lamista last time was a nice effort, but before that she'd done a lot of losing in the US. And technical analysis I thought could have won the Diana if she had been put out there if she had been closer to an Italian. I thought she was going to be the speed and an Italian was going to be second in there. And I of course projected the race wrong there. And I would probably agree with you that that was Chad's master plan to get in Italian. The decision was made that an Italian was going to win a grade one and not technical analysis, which certainly is frustrating when you look at it from drawing a race up perspective. But I just think technical analysis has been very good throughout her career. The effort at Pimlico was very nice. And then the runner-up effort in the Diana last time, she ran really well there. And she's getting a distance that she certainly has no problem doing a mile and a 16th at Saratoga. So I'm just going to take her in this race. I don't want to take her. I had our flat stride last time, and I thought she ran a credible race, but at the same time, how are you going to go against her? From my perspective, how are you going to go against technical analysis after that last effort? Would have been a lot better if I had picked her in that race as opposed to the horse that I ended up picking in there. The stupid Diana was the race that I have probably most overanalyzed the entire meet, and it's certainly been a meet of overanalyzing a ton of stuff. So I am also doing something that I am infamous for, and that is taking a race that I can spend 5 seconds on and drawing it out. So I'm not going to spend any more time on the Ballston Spa because I think it's technical analysis. And I don't blame you for going with Lamista in this spot. I just don't like Lamista because she hadn't ever won before the race that she won at Monmouth. I'm forgetting the name of the race. I'm not going to remember any names of anything just because of the way that I am right now. Whatever the race that she won at Monmouth was called, she hadn't won anything before that. So that's my big point against her in this spot. But certainly it's worth a try, at least from your perspective, to go with her in this spot. If you're ready to move on, we can talk about the Alfred Vanderbilt, which I don't think is very. I don't think it's a very complicated. Or Alfred Vanderbilt, the Forgo. See, we're already starting with me not getting stuff right on this. I feel like there are going to be a lot of people who are going to try to make this race more complicated than it needs to be, just because there's a couple horses in here that I think are going to take fair amount of wise guy money. Are you going against Jackie's Warrior in here, or are you going to take the proven commodity and when crazy crap doesn't happen, Jackie's Warrior wins easily approach?
Well, Jack, I think that's a very good question. And, I've got a really good idea in this race, this really outside the box idea. It's outside the box for me because I'm going to take the odds on favorite, Jackie's Warrior. And if I was playing any multi-race tickets, I would absolutely single him, even though a lot of other people are doing the same. Bill Mott's got two nice horses in here. I love Bill Mott. I love Chad Brown. Chad Brown's got a nice horse in here. The problem is they're running into a buzzsaw that just likes to win races and win races impressively. I get that his last race, he was beating absolutely nobody. I also understand that in his last race, he was in for, I wouldn't even say a stroll in Central Park because Central Park is too fancy. He was out for a stroll in Clove Lakes Park, which is the park I like to do my walks in here on Staten Island. So I think that Jackie's Warrior is just going to walk here and have a real nice time just cruising over inferior competition. Once again, a race I would never touch with a single dollar. And I want to make something clear before we go into any of the other races. I am not betting this card. I have not bet Saratoga since July 31st. I did really well at Belmont. I played the first 3 weeks at Saratoga. It did not go well, and I quit. Did I quit because I was down and pissed off? Yes. So I quit. That's all.
And I unfortunately will be playing this card because when I was in Europe, as I mentioned, I was hitting everything and I have money burning in my pocket. And then as soon as I get back to the United States, I'm going to not hit a single race. So I'm certainly very excited for that to happen. But I think the Fordo is a race that, like I mentioned, I think people can have the potential to complicate this. Now, I think probably 90% of people are going to pick Jackie's Warrior in this race because everybody knows what Andrew just said. Jackie's winning, and it really doesn't matter that he didn't beat anybody last time because he's had races where he doesn't beat anybody before. It doesn't matter with a horse like him. He just wins. And that's the thing about him. He just wins no matter what is put in front of him. And I don't really think that there's some solid enough horses going up against him, but I don't think anybody in this race is overly strong. I have never been a Baby Yoda fan. I think Baby Yoda is an allowance horse that takes highly overinflated figures. Everybody drools over him, and then he runs like an allowance horse in stakes races. Now, Baby Yoda likes Saratoga. I understand someone can make that case, but I had a tweet after Baby Yoda won his most recent race. Is it Saratoga that he likes, or is it Allowance Company that he likes? I'm willing to contend that it's Allowance Company. Cody's Wish, nice horse. He's never gone up against a horse the level of Jackie's Warrior. He's not cut out to he hasn't proven that he's cut out to beat a horse like him. And Jackie's Warrior doesn't lose, like I mentioned, he doesn't lose when there's not crap like what happened in the Breeders' Cup happening in a race. And I don't think crap like what happened in the Breeders' Cup is going to happen this time. I would be, frankly, I'd be very surprised if that does happen. So, while he had a nice effort at Churchill last time, Cody's Wish did, the Westchester was a good effort for him. And he ran a very tough second behind Scalding, the now retired Scalding in the Challenger Stakes. And I had a lot of respect for Scalding. I think he might have been able to win a grade one if he had not gotten injured and been given the opportunity to do that. But at the same time, Cody's Wish has not run against a horse the likes of Jackie's Warrior, hasn't proven that he can beat that kind of a horse. And I don't really think he's going to do that. And why would you try to do that with a horse that has just proven to be such a good commodity as Jackie's Warrior? So this is going to be another procession for him. Easy victory. And once again, we're doing this again, a race that we don't need to spend that much time on. We're ending up spending a lot of time on. But that's it for talking about the Forgo. We're going to move on now and talk about race number 7. That was the race that I mentioned we were going to do because this was the one race where I said I had something. I'm going to toss it to you, Andrew, because I need to take a drink of water. Do you have anything in race 7?
Yeah, this is once again a race that I would never play. I'm sorry, I don't have any clever ideas in these races, but I just feel that the horses that I think could win are just too short to make any money on. And in here, if you were forced to make me give a top choice, I would actually go unbelievably in a 5.5 furlong turf sprint, taking a horse being ridden by Joel Rosario. And people know that I absolutely despise Joel Rosario because he keeps horses too far behind and he doesn't ride them fast enough in the race. He doesn't get into them early enough, I should say. That's it's a better way of putting it. But Ranger Fox, he did hustle this horse out last time, got a clear early lead, and held on through the stretch very well, and then held on at the end. They were closing in a little bit, still won comfortably for a short turf sprint like that at Belmont. And these 5.5 furlong turf sprints at Saratoga, because of the short distance, are so speed favoring. I would like Rosario to do the same exact thing this time. You get 7-2 on the morning line, which actually isn't horrible in this field because they're going to play Rudy on the outside. They're going to play Admonson, and they might, of course, play the entry. Entries always get bet. So you might wind up with even 4-1 or 9-2 on this horse. You might kind of get forgotten about a little bit. And I always love horses coming off of a win, especially horses that don't like to win that much. And if you look through this guy's record, he doesn't like to win that much, but the previous kind of good streak he put together in those maiden races, and when he finally emerged, he was consistent. So hopefully he's rounding into that form again, and that Belmont down there was a nice prep for this one. So my top choice is Ranger Fox here in the Spa 7th race.
Yeah, I took the leisure of attaching myself to Andrew's pick because I also have Ranger Fox, and a simple reason, I had him at Belmont when he won on the 4th, so I'm going to go back to him. I like to go back to horses who win for me. I think that that was a good enough effort for him, and I can second the stuff that you said about Rosario there. I don't want to go into repeat everything just because I can't do it, and then also it would be repetitive. But I am going with Ranger Fox in the 7th race, and we'll move on now to race number 8, the Allen Jerkens. I'll toss it back to you. Are you going to Jack Christopher, or are you going crazy in this race?
I think Jack Christopher gets his revenge here. This is about probably the most amount of short prices in a row I've ever given out on any show I've ever been on. Because as you know, ladies and gentlemen, Jack has no problem correctly taking a bunch of short prices in a row. But for some reason, I can't do that. Except on this show. I've been taking a lot of short prices, and I'm going to take another one here in Jack Christopher. Last time we were going to learn, could he handle the 2 turns? The answer was no. We don't need to ask the question, can he handle 1 turn? Can he handle 7 furlongs? I think we know the answer to that. I take Jack Christopher. I think he just rises over this field by a lot. I think if there's anyone who can beat him, it's Accretive, because I think he's on the upswing. Gunite has had a bunch of starts, and we kind of know who he is. I think Accretive is just getting better. I was there for his maiden race in person. I was very impressed. And last time he just missed against Gunite. I think he could be the one that's improving. And if anyone could beat him, it is Accretive. So there's your first of 2 Chad Brown exactas I'm going to be giving out on this show. It's nothing creative. It's just Jack Christopher and Accretive. Gunite for 3rd, nothing creative at all.
Yeah, that's the thing about this race, and Eric kind of talked about it on Racing Rundown this week, that this race is something that you could be liable to overthink in terms of, trying to find someone to beat Jack Christopher. And if you're trying to beat Jack Christopher, I don't think it's the worst idea. I just am not a big fan of taking against horses because they're going to be a short price. I did that a lot in the early part of the year, and I lost out on a number of not great winners, but when you're down $90 on the year, 7 or 8 short price winners that you could have taken go a long way to a certain point. So I don't like to do that anymore because I can see how detrimental it can be. Conager is going to give Jack Christopher the test that maybe he hasn't had up to this point in his career. And, he's certainly a horse that I think you have to respect. His efforts pre-Iowa Derby were very strong, and the distance just got to him in the Iowa Derby. He's going back to sprinting, which he wants to do. And underneath Jack Christopher, this is a very strong field. The Creative and Gunite Grade 1 winner. Creative was maybe the best horse last time in the Amsterdam. The less we talk about that race, the better. And then you have Running Son of a Gun, who has been running some very solid efforts throughout the year. Grade 1 placed a couple of graded stakes, placed 3 straight times. He was Grade 1 placed in a stretch of time. I think he was third in the Woody Stevens, and then I have to get his chart up. My computer's loading. I'm actually thinking of
I've got it if you need me. He hasn't run in a Grade 1.
Yeah, you know what? I just caught myself because he was supposed to run in the Woody Stevens, and then his owner died, and that's why he didn't run in there. So I'm mixing that up because
that's sad. And don't beat yourself up. Like you said, you're just off a plane. Don't worry about it.
So he was second in the Dwyer and third in the Amsterdam, but he was in those races at strong prices in there. And, he's probably going to be that horse everybody's figured out up to this point. But, probably your only chance to make any kind of money. Again, he's going to take a lot of money in the show pool because I think people are going to look at the 2 and the 3 and in the stakes races. And obviously with Charge It not being in the Travers, it's disappointing, but I don't really think that's going to make a difference. But that's really I think the best chance you have to make some kind of money in this race. If you're someone who wants to get really nuts in this race and think that Jack Christopher and Conager are going to really blow it up in this race and you want to throw him to win on top, I don't think it's the worst idea. I personally wouldn't do it, but I could see the situation if those two, Conager and Jack Christopher, go really fast early on. Gunite's probably going to be relatively close to them. That could burn that top 3 out, or top 3 of 4. Creative's probably going to be somewhere, maybe 3 or 4 in that spot. But that could put it up for him. But you also make the devil's advocate angle with, Running Son of a Gun and a Creative are probably going to be doing very similar things. And a Creative was a lot closer to winning the Amsterdam than Running Son of a Gun was. So, but I think if you want to get super crazy, I think the super crazy angle in this race is a Creative over Running Son of a Gun. So that'd be a 9-2 exacta. But again, you just can't go against Jack Christopher in my view in this race, and in Andrew's view. And that's really just where this race. Once again, short priced is all hell as always, but an in race because Jack Christopher is fun to watch and we're likely going to see a show from him. And then if he doesn't win, it's going to be a big story. I will say though, and I don't like to put stuff out there, but in the course of me doing Racing Rundown, and that's the only 3 times I picked this race, I have not failed to pick the winner in this race. So I'm putting that streak of 3 winners in a row on the line. Hopefully we'll keep that going with 4 in this spot. My winners were Mind Control, Echo Town, and of course last year with Jackie's Warriors. So we're hopefully going to get that 4th straight winner in this race. And I think that we're going to have some nice things from Jack Christopher in this spot. But as I said, if you think that Conager and Jack Christopher are going to blow each other up, take Gunite down with them, you can have some fun with Running Son of a Gun, but I think, the way you would go in that spot is play an exacta 9-2, a Creative over Running Son of a Gun, and now watch that happen and that not be my pick in the race. But I think that that's your best chance to make any kind of money in this race. But for the most part, I think it's just going to be Jack Christopher having his fun. We'll move on now. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt, but I did have something in my notes about Conager, the 1 horse, that I forgot to bring up because I figured I could get through this race without my notes because it was so simple. The reason I didn't use Conager is actually something that I don't consider a lot of the time, but it's actually his post. I don't like the inside post going 7 furlongs at Saratoga for just about anybody. You see horses break slow from there all the time, and this horse runs at his best on the lead. And even if he does break well, he's going to be facing what is likely severe pressure in here. And I know the track has got a lot of rain earlier today. Somebody also just tweeted that it was raining at Saratoga just an hour ago. I don't know if that's true. I can't verify that, but somebody did put that out there. The way the track is played at Saratoga, this meet in general, is actually contrary to what it's done in the past throughout the later portions of meets. And that is that being inside and on the lead is actually not the greatest place to be. So I don't know how I can't take the risk and include this horse up there with 3 horses that I consider to be tops to begin with. I respect what he's done so far. I also understand he's kind of done it in a little bit of what I think are weaker races, and he's been short prices the last 3 starts. So you throw all those things together, that's how I couldn't get to him in there. I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, and that's certainly something. And of course, I haven't been watching that much Saratoga the last couple of weeks, so I have no. So if I'm not on top of everything in terms of how the track's been playing the past couple of weeks, I'm certainly not in a position to bring that. So I do apologize again. It is not really practical to be able to watch Saratoga when I'm 5 hours ahead of it, but that's beside the point. We'll move on to race number 9, the personal ensign. I am not going to do the Malathot defense because I don't have a Malathot defense because, in my opinion, at this point, there's really no way to go further with her. Of course, if you listen to Racing Rundown, Eric is going to continue to go down with the ship. I got off for this race. I'll toss it over to Andrew before getting into what I'm going to do in this race. But for the first time, actually, I can't say for the first time in a long time because I didn't pick her in the FIPS, but I'm not picking Malathot in this race. I'll hand it over to you, Andrew, but I'll put it out there right now. I'm not taking Malathot in this race.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, this is actually a sneaky, wide open race, even though it's only a 5-horse field. I think you could make win arguments for 4 of the 5 horses, all of them except the 4 Crazy Beautiful, although I'm glad she's here. I'll say that. With Latruska, the way Latruska wins this race is the way she wins most of her races if she goes out to the lead and does not take pressure. Do I see that happening? No, but I also don't see her getting pressured the way she got pressured by search results last time. This is a longer race. This is a 2-turn race. Latruska's best race last year came in here in this personal ensign when she took the most amount of pressure she did last year. It was definitely her most impressive race, even though the pressure was not that strong, all things considered. It was still the best she ran, was in here from the same post. This is pretty much a carbon copy. The difference here is that horses are in here that at least this year have been proven to have been better. The 3 Clairiere has absolutely earned her right to be at the top of the division at the moment. She got beat by Latruska earlier down at Oaklawn when Latruska got to go on her normal kind of victory dance, let's say. But the FIPS was a good race. She got a good setup that day again, too, as did Malathot. And then last time was, I believe, her most impressive race, even though it was weaker from a figure perspective because she closed into a pace that was not very fast, much like Epicenter did in the Jim Dandy. I thought that was his most impressive race this year. And then you got Malathot. She's classy. She's consistent. I'm a big fan of her. I just don't know if she's good enough to win. So where does that leave me? Well, it leaves me with search results. And I can absolutely say that based on talent, I think she's the 4th best horse in this race. I think that the most talented horses right now are Clairiere, Malathot, Latruska, and then search results. So why am I going to pick search results? I'm going to pick search results based off an observation that I saw with my eyes. Now, last time in the Molly picture, she beat up on just completely inferior horses. That was not my observation. My observation was the Phipps. I think, personally, I don't think there's any doubt that she ran the best race in the Phipps out of anybody, and I don't think it was particularly close. She pressured Latruska. She put her away. I don't know. Maybe Latruska was wrong because it was wrong in some way because she just completely, totally gave and got a 50 buyer, just was basically pulled up and never asked. I don't know exactly what happened. But the point is, she put her away and nearly held off these freight trains in Clairiere and Malathaat that were coming. She did not give in. She was still running at the end. I thought that was one of the most courageous performances I've seen from anybody this year. And I believe that she is going to be the fourth choice in this race. And as someone who does look for value, you know that. I haven't done it yet. This horse is only 7-2 on the morning line. I don't know if you consider her value, but I think based off that one race, I have to give her a shot on top here because of what I saw in the Phipps and how courageous of a performance she ran. Last time, I know she won easily. It was a tune-up. It was not important. She was never going to lose that race. I think this is a chance for her to be at a tactical advantage as well, sitting off of Latruska, not totally pressuring her, but I also don't think Latruska is as good as she was last year anyway. So even if she gets an easier lead, I'm not convinced that she's going to be able to hold on. But this pace will be slower than the Phipps. And Clairiere and Malathaat will have a harder time closing into it, particularly Clairiere, as she's carrying the Joel Rosario handicap on her. I expect search results to be stalking, get a really nice trip, probably in the clear. It's a short field, so it could wind up being a jockey's race. I don't really expect that. A lot of the dirt races, there's been plenty of room to move at Saratoga. So I expect her to get a clean trip and maybe get the edge on Clairiere and Malathaat. So I will be on search results. I think this will be a great watching race for everybody.
Yeah, and I am glad that you took a lot of time to go into this race because I think that you can take a lot of time to go in this race and go into this race. And I agree with you. 4 of the 5 can win this race, and good on Ken McPeak to have Crazy Beautiful here. He's one of the few people that's not afraid to say, "Hey, we have a 3 in 5 chance of getting a grade 1 placing, and it's going to be a 5-horse field. Why the hell try and take the chance?" So credit to him on that front. I'm going to always give him credit when he does stuff like this because it drives me crazy when trainers don't do that. But that's completely beside the point. Latruska. I have said everything that I've said about Latruska for the last 18 months. This is the first time where I'm going to make a case for her to win a race that it is one where I don't necessarily think it's going to be handed to her on a silver platter. But I think your assessment is very right. She's not going to get pressed the way that she was in the Phipps, but I also don't think she's going to be handed the lead like she was in every single race last year. And I think that, there is a chance that, maybe if she rebounds off of that Phipps effort, which I don't think is an indication of her true talent as a racehorse. She certainly has fallen off from last year, and I think it's ridiculous to say that she hasn't taken a step back from the high point she was last year, although I will dispute that I don't really think that she was really ever that good last year, but we don't need to get into that argument right now. I was proven right last year, so that's beside the point. But I think that she could win this race just from the way that the tactics are going to play out. I think that it's going to be her search results and then whatever order Clairiere, Malathaat, and Crazy Beautiful decide to run in. Doesn't really matter from that perspective, but I think you'll have Latruska maybe about a length or so in front of search results going down the backside of this race. And I think search results has a very good chance to win this race. I'm not necessarily sure if I'd agree with you that she's the 4th best on talent in this race, but I don't know that I disagree with you either. So it's difficult to rate her ability as a horse, but I do agree with you that I thought that she ran the best race in the FIPS, all things considered, to take out search results to take out Latruska and to run to hang in as long as she did in the stretch with Clarier and Malathot coming. I was mentioning it a little bit earlier. As good as Clarier has been this year, I don't think Clarier all has been putting away and without dispute divisional honors type horse this year. And maybe that's the bias that I've always had against Clarier coming out, but Clarier, this is kind of a prove it race for her because she's beaten she beat search results in the FIPS and she's beat Malathot in the last couple of occasions, but the FIPS was a head bob, so that's kind of a wash. And then she ran a very strong race last time in the Shuvi, but she's a horse that can get beat by horses, and maybe she has just taken that really strong step forward and will end up being wrong and she'll win this race, and we'll have to say, okay, now it's finally time to respect her. But I'm going to use this race as a kind of prove it for her in this spot, and I'm going to let her beat me in this spot. And I'm also going to go to search results in this race just because I think the race potentially sets up really well for her. I think she can set a good trip around the spot where Latruska is going to be, but not run her to the level where she knocks out Latruska. A mile and an eighth is no problem for her. And the tune-up last time in the Molly Pitcher was a really strong effort for her. So I think that the effort that search results turned in there was very good. I think that she's going to turn in another very good effort in this race. And then we'll see what ends up happening with Clarier and Malathot. As much as I love Malathot, I can't take her in this spot after that last effort. And as much as I am one that's known to sacrifice my loyalty for horses, I will not pick my favorite horses in races because I'm trying to get the winner in the prospective race. And this is an example of where I'm going to do that in this spot. But I do think that this is a wide open race. I don't think this is a single Clarier and move on. I can understand why she's 6-5 in the morning line because she's probably going to get bet like that. But, with search results, and you can even make the case for Latruska. So I'd rank the horses in terms of likelihood to win this race. Search results, Clarier, and then Latruska. I'd put Malathot fourth likely just because Malathot, and I don't even think that she's better, that Clarier has gotten significantly better than her. I just think Malathot is so weird, man. Malathot lost the FIPS because of how weird of a horse she is mentally. So that's one thing. And then, I think Malathot, just with the way that I'd honestly put her losses this year on her mentally. But with that being said, I don't really see a reason how that's going to change in this race. So, once again, I think Clarier might end up coming out the better in this spot. But, maybe I sound crazy, but I honestly think Malathot could still be better than Clarier. But she's always been a very weird horse mentally. And with how she's been these last couple of races, it amazes me that she won the Kentucky Oaks because, with how she decided that when she was in front, she had done her job in the FIPS. I'm surprised that she didn't decide to do that in the Kentucky Oaks, but I think it's certainly possible that she could still be the best horse in this race and just is so much of a wacky horse mentally that she could just decide to not win this race again. Do you think that's at all possible, Andrew, or am I just trying to grasp at any little straw that exists left of Malathot potentially still being the best horse in this division?
I don't believe in, I know you like to use that expression, Jack. I don't believe there is such a thing because we're talking about horse racing and we've seen so much wacky shit happen. I don't think that your ideas are at all remote or out there. No, I don't think you're crazy at all.
And, I will ask you, if you were to, since I ranked my horses in terms of likelihood that I think that they could win this race, do you have an order that, how would you rank their likelihood of this top four in their order of how you think they could win this race?
Likelihood of winning. Now, that's normally something I don't consider when I'm thinking about races. Like, I rank them in terms of talent. I guess in likelihood of winning, I'd have to go Clarier, Latruska, Malathot, and then search results. And I know I picked search results. And the reason I think search results is fourth likeliest is she has to have everything right, in my opinion, for her to win. But I do think she might get everything right. I think this is the chance for her to get that real big, prestigious race, grade one race. Not that I care if a race is grade one or not, but I think that this is her chance to do that. Clarion, just because of what she's done the last two races, number one. Latruska, because she could trip out if nobody pressures her. And then Malathot is as consistent as they come. So that's why I would rank those three tops in terms of that. And that's really all I got. I'm taking a shot with search results just because I think her effort was incredibly impressive back in June, and she could get everything right.
Yeah, and I agree with you. This is certainly going to be a very fun watching race, and then I think we'll have to evaluate the winner's performance in terms of what the distaff could look like, because we have to compare whatever happens in this race to what we saw last weekend. And I guess since we're talking about female racehorses right now, let's talk about the second best 3-year-old period, regardless of male or female in the country right now. The freaky filly by the name of Nest. I'll give you the opportunity. I mean, I don't know that you have anything that hasn't already been said about her, but how impressive was the Alabama?
The Alabama was impressive enough that I didn't say much in the stretch other than urging her on. And what I saw from her between the 3/16 and the 8th pole was staggering. I saw her sprint from the 3/16 to the 8th pole and open up that bigger lead. And she was kind of geared down towards the end, and the final margin was only about 5. She was better than 5 lengths better than Echo Zulu, right? Not Echo Zulu. Who finished second? Secret Oath. I'm sorry, I can't remember names right now. Yeah, she was more than 5 lengths better than her. I was extremely impressed. I think she could possibly be the best 3-year-old in the country, period. I can't say that because I haven't seen her run against Epicenter. And as we're going to talk about the Travers, and I'm going to ask your permission before the Travers to do about a 90-second rant, if that's okay. Even though I haven't seen her run against Epicenter, that's the reason I should say that I can't put her above Epicenter just yet, but I think she's extremely close to him and could possibly be better. We just don't know right now. We'll have to see how they run their races, particularly how Epicenter runs in the Travers. But right now, I don't know what else there is to say except that she just keeps showing up time after time. I completely agree with all your thoughts that she should have won the Oaks with that ride. After watching it again, when we were just casually talking, I pulled it up and I said, "Oh man, you're right. You were totally right." She ran the most impressive Belmont by a filly since Rags to Riches, and arguably had a little bit of. She didn't have the greatest scenario in there, other than being put into a good early position. That far turn, she kind of got blocked a little bit coming into the stretch too. Maybe she could have been closer to Mo Donegal, who I think right now would be the best 3-year-old. So I don't know what I'm just saying what everybody else is saying. She's awesome. She's just freaking awesome.
Everybody except Marcus Hirsch, but we don't need to talk about his ridiculous takes about her. I will ask you, just because I can't really remember it right now. Did she have that same sprint acceleration that she had in the Alabama in the Belmont? Because I don't particularly recall seeing that, but I have a very poor memory right now. So did she have a acceleration like that or something similar, or was that just something that she pulled out in the Alabama?
Think she just pulled it out in the Alabama. In the Belmont, the only one who really looked like a sprinter was Mo Donegal. And even he kind of just has that same stride. Just, And he just kind of motored past Skippy Longstocking and We the People, with Ness sitting in behind those two. When I was watching Ness in the Belmont, I just more saw her kind of staying on, but of course staying on very impressively to only lose to Mo Donegal by 3.5 lengths and easily putting away the other two horses that I just mentioned, who are both very good horses and have come back to do some good things. As far as that sprinting, from a visual perspective, that sprinting was more impressive than Mo Donegal's sprinting at the top of the stretch in the Belmont. Although that was 1.5 miles and this was only 1.25 miles, and she's bred to go as long as she wants. But I'd never really seen that before in a marathon, not a marathon, but a classic distance of 1.25 miles around 2 turns from a filly her age. And I've seen some impressive fillies, but she showed a dimension that I had not really seen there. And I think it just makes you salivate at the opportunity to see what she could do in fall, in even before the Breeders' Cup, in a race against males. I would advocate for running her in the Woodward possibly, especially if Life is Good happens to not show up. He probably will. But if he didn't show up, I'd throw her right in the Woodward. I swear to God.
I would wish that she would do that, but we all know Todd Pletcher loves to take his final stakes win at Saratoga, sit on the horse until the Breeders' Cup, and then we see what happens there. But I will say one more thing about Nest, actually, because I need to continue to say this because for some reason people still can't grasp this. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the Kentucky Oaks, go back to the top of the stretch in the Kentucky Oaks replay. It's right before, if you want to find exactly where you need to see to pick this up, it's right before it switches from, or NBC switches from the angle behind the horses to the angle of them coming off the turn. And you'll see Nest is sitting in a perfect spot behind Echo Zulu, behind the leading horses, and inside of Secret Oath. And she's in the perfect position where if Irad waits there, he's going to have 2 holes. And as soon as they switch to the head on, or de facto head, it's not the true head on angle, but you know what I'm talking about, the NBC head on off the turn angle. As soon as they switch there, you'll see 2 holes open up. The first one is going to be between Geary and the rail. And Ugiri was backing up to the point where Nest was not going to interfere with Ugiri if Irad wanted to take that hole. So that was 1 hole there. The second hole was between Ugiri and Echo Zulu, which he did not have to. And I should correct myself, actually. It was between Echo Zulu and Secret Oath. But that hole right there, perfectly wide open for him. Tons of real estate for her to navigate through in the Kentucky Oaks. Instead, what Irad did was take Nest around Echo Zulu, around Secret Oath, and initiate contact with Desert Dawn off the turn. So in addition to being wide at Churchill, he's also initiating contact with another horse in the stretch of the race. So right there is what I think cost Nest the Kentucky Oaks there. So if you want to see what I've been talking about, that's where you will find it. And also, the reason why we were talking about Nest is because I was wanting to stall for our next guest, Sammy Roseman, who I think I heard you just joined. So we're still on the personal ensign. So if you want to give your thoughts on the personal ensign, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you.
I think, I think Chastity's not going to send Churchill, so I think she could sit off. I mean, if you look back, she ran the best race in that race. Hold on.
Go right in.
But I think it comes to just the talent level. Clairieur's is better. She took a step up. I even think, honestly, I don't know if you guys agree. I think Malathot has improved. I think Clairieur's is better this year. What do you guys think?
I mean, that's difficult to disagree with because it's not like Malathot has run bad races this year. It's just Malathot's a very wacky horse mentally. And, I know that, some people can say, oh, that's kind of BS to say, the horse pulls himself up. But that's what Malathot does. Malathot puts her head in front, thinks her job's done, and then, kind of, stops running. That's what she did in the Double Dog Dare. She didn't lose that race because she wasn't going to lose to Super Quick and whoever the hell else she was running against there. And then, that's why she lost the Phipps. I think she was the best horse definitely in the Phipps, but I don't think you're wrong to say that she's improved. It's just that, maybe I'm not entirely convinced that Clarier is better, but that's certainly it's not you're not ridiculous to say that Clarier is better because Clarier's for 2 for 2 against Malathot this year. But you're not. I don't think it's wrong to say that Malathot's improved and that Clarier's just been better. But I think that it completely underscores why the personal instance is a wide open race.
I think everyone has figured out what to do with a true spoon. Just challenge her. Challenge her. She's not gonna do anything. She's so one-dimensional. It's crazy, and they've learned it. Took them a bunch of times now.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible how right I was and how many times I had to say it last year before it ended up before people ended up realizing it. And that was it took the Breeders' Cup and then it took the FIPS for it to finally be realized by the masses. But one-dimensional horse, if she's able to walk on the front end, she'll be able to do whatever she wants, and if she's pressured at all, she's not going to win the race. So that's the way Latruska's been, and that's the way she's going to be throughout the rest of her career. And she has her Eclipse Award. That's cool. She's not going to win a Breeders' Cup race. I don't really see a reason why I made the case that she can win this race, but if you were to ask me to bet money on it, I would not, because I just don't think it's that likely. I think I rated her as the third likely to win this race, just because I think Malathot's the fourth likely, but they're about even in terms of their ability. In my opinion, their ability to win this race. I'm ready to move on to the Sword Dancer. If you guys are all set with this race, I don't know if you have anything else that anybody has anything else they'd want to mention, but I'm all set to move on to the Sword Dancer.
Yeah, let's move on to a real race.
Yeah, and I'll toss it right back to you, Andrew, because I'm sure you have a ton of stuff to do in this race, because this is a relatively full field, a lot of evenly matched horses, and it's actually a race that we have to think about.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to think about in this race, and I believe that the number one question in this race is who sucks the least, and the number two question is what is the pace going to be like? A more serious question. And fortunately for my boy Channel Maker, I think this pace will be lively, and I think it will be similar to the pace that we had last year in the same race when Tribavan and Channel Maker pretty much kind of just took each other out. And I think it's very likely that will happen again. I don't think Tribavan wants any part of a mile and a half. I respect his Manhattan effort. It was really, really good. But last time in the United Nations, I was there. You could really see how that last eighth of a mile got to him. Now, it didn't get to him in 2021 in the UN because there was nobody in there for him to lose to. This year, there were horses that excel at longer distances that were there to beat him. So I can't use Tribavan at all, even though it's Chad. And he's pulled off some incredible things, as we all know. He had a 14-1 over 19-1 exacta yesterday at Saratoga, if you could possibly believe that. But he did. And before I get on to the horse that I'm going to pick in here, let's mention another Chad Brown horse that I'm not going to use, and that's Rock Emperor. I realize he won the Bowling Green. I don't think it was a good race. I think he kind of just won by default. L'Imperador couldn't hang around for that mile and 3/8. I think it got to him just like it got to Tribavan last time. L'Imperador could handle the mile and an eighth for sure. It can't handle those much longer distances. And then Arklow, I mean, I've never liked Arklow. Jack, you've never liked Arklow. I don't know. I mean, some people like Arklow because he always gets bet, but we've never liked him. So, I mean, Rock Emperor beats him. That's not really saying much to me.
I have to stop you and interrupt you for just a second. If you go back to some of the early days of Racing Run-On, I think I got sucked into Arklow a couple of times, but I haven't picked Arklow in a race since 2020. So certainly been a very long time of not liking Arklow, but I can't say that for sure that I've never liked Arklow.
Oh, okay. Well, I apologize for insinuating that, but look,
I need to hold myself accountable for ever believing that Arklow could do anything.
Wow, that's I think Arklow wants to take a bite at you right now. I'm glad you're not in Saratoga because you might be in danger after if he just heard that. I'm going to throw my boy Channel Maker in for third just because I love him so much, and that tenacious effort he had last time in a stakes race that almost wasn't run. I do love him so much, so I'm going to put him third. Who are the two horses I'm going to put on top? Well, one of them, the horse I'm going to put in the second position is Adamo for Chad Brown because I do respect the consistency he's had in America. I don't care about the Churchill race. I don't think anybody should care about the Churchill race because of what's gone on there. Tripavan just freaked in the Manhattan, and he ran the next best race and got second, closing in. Actually, sitting, he kind of sat a little bit closer, then he kind of just got outrun. So he ran good there. And then in the UN, he just sort of stated himself as a true contender to be the top 3-year-old, not top turf horse in America. I don't know why I said 3-year-old. So Adamo needs to be used in this race, and I think the 1.5 miles is right up his alley. So the question becomes, am I going to use Broome or Gufo on top? Because you really can't say I could take anybody else. Well, spoiler alert, it's an American horse. Broome, I just can't use the Europeans out of principle. I never pick European turf horses. I didn't like the race last time out at Ascot. I watched it and I never watch overseas races. He ran fourth. It was a giant purse. I understand that. I also don't love Ryan Moore. That's another reason. And I don't like that he's going to be 3-1. Gufo. I think this is finally Gufo's time to shine. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. I listened recently to all the Racing Rundown episodes I've missed since the summer while I was on vacation and all that. And Jack, your partner on this show, Eric DeCoster, made a very good point about Gufo and something we all know that I know especially, that Joel Rosario sometimes just holds horses back. I shouldn't say sometimes. He practically always does. He keeps horses too far behind. And there has been no horse that has been kept behind in bigger races more than Gufo, way too far behind. And Christoph needs to get on him. I'm tired of Christoph saying, oh, I trust Rosario. Well, not when the same thing has happened over and over again. I think you can make an argument that he is the best American turf horse, despite not winning since that race at Gulfstream, which I thought was a very nice, impressive race. Those last 3 races, I think you could make the argument that he should have run a lot better in all 3 of them, could have run a lot better, could have possibly won the Man of War. The Manhattan, he was too far behind again. And the UN, he was way, way too far behind on a turf course at Monmouth where you cannot be too far behind. The thing this time is the distance. He gets the extra 1/8 of a mile, get it out to the 1.5 miles. He won this race last year over a pretty damn good European horse in his own right. So I expect a good effort from Gufo, and I think the pace, knocking it up between Channel Maker and Tripavan, will be strong enough for him to close into. I can't believe I'm saying this, but yes, I'm picking Joel Rosario 3 times on this show, and even in a turf route marathon like this, I'm taking Gufo because I think that tomorrow will finally be his day where he gets what he needs.
All right, so I want to talk about Broome first because I am not picking Broome, and I'm not picking Broome for a couple of reasons. The first reason is Aidan O'Brien has not, his horses that he's been sending over to the United States have not been firing as of late, and he hasn't been sending his best horses as of late. Last year, he sent Japan over a couple of times, and Japan was very much second rate from among European horses. Broome is also very much second rate. He is a Group 1 winner. He won the Grand Prix de Saint Cloud last year, but that was against a very iffy group of horses. And he was Breeders' Cup place last year, but, at the same time, he has also been very feast or famine, and he has had some very poor efforts, including this year. A very bad sixth place effort in the Tattersall's Gold Cup at the Curragh, which the form of that race has not come back outside of State of Rest. The form of that race has not come out very strong. Alan Kerr was had a very bad effort in the Coral Eclipse at Sandown. High Definition has been beaten a lot. Outside of State of Rest, you haven't gotten very strong runs since then. He did win at Royal Ascot the Hardwick Stakes over Hurricane Lane, who a lot of people know from his wins in the Irish Derby, the one of the third leg of the French Triple Crown, and then he also won the Ledger last year. But Hurricane Lane has not been the same horse this year, and outside of Broome didn't beat anybody. And then last time in the King George, he got beat by Pile Driver and Torquator Tasso, who, they were both Group 1 winners last year, and they're solid enough horses, but those are not the best of the best in Europe. And Broome is not one of those horses that can come to the United States and dominate average American horses. He's an average European horse, and he's going up against average American horses. Average European horses don't come over here and are locks. Now, he's not going to get bet an insanely low price, because you also have Adamo and other Chads in this race that are going to take money. But that doesn't mean that Broome is not going to, or that doesn't mean that Broome isn't going to take a good amount of money. And also, Ryan Moore absolutely cannot take Ryan Moore in any race ever, much less any race in the United States. So I'm very against Broome in this race. Very against Rock Emperor, because Rock Emperor doesn't like to win anything. I'm also against Tribhuvan and Channelmaker for very similar reasons as Andrew. I don't think they're going to go super fast, but, I think they are going to be up there and potentially, could take each other out towards the end. If Channelmaker doesn't break like he did in the Manhattan, then that could make things very interesting. Although, like you said, Andrew, Tribhuvan, and I'll ask you this: let's play out the scenario here. Let's say Channelmaker doesn't break and Tribhuvan's alone on the lead. Do you think he can last, or did he really show last time at Monmouth that the 1 3/8 was too far, and 1.5 miles is certainly, if that was too far, 1.5 miles is certainly going to be much too far for him? Or do you think if we run the scenario where Channelmaker doesn't break and he's absolutely alone, that he could, is there a chance that he could possibly steal, or is it just game over, even if he is alone on the front end?
I think the only way he can do it is because Chad Brown is an absolute magician that knows how to get these longer prices. And Tribhuvan will not be a long price in this race, but he will not be a short price by any means. That he's a magician at getting these horses sometimes to win on the lead, despite their quality. And he knows how to manipulate the pari-mutuel market. I think that's the only way. I don't think this horse can last 1.5 miles under the most ideal circumstances. I really, truly don't. I think this is going to be a very, very tough thing for him to do. I hate to say this. I think Rock Emperor beats him. I really don't think this is Tribhuvan's race. Tribhuvan, however you want to say his name. I've got other things to add on that I forgot to mention, by the way, Jack. Could I just do that at the end? Because I'd like you to keep going on and let Sammy have his thoughts too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're going to spend a lot of time on this race because this is actually a race worth spending time on. I wanted to get Broome stuff out of the way. The two long shots in this race, Crossborder, the last time was the race to take him in. He loves Saratoga, but the Bowling Green was going to be the race he's going to win. And when he didn't win that just kind of showed you that he is over the hill, cold hard cash. If you want to, throw something on him just to get absolutely nuts in this race, be my guest. But I don't really see a whole lot with him. I'll get to Adamo. He certainly has earned his place in this division as of this point. And, the race is likely going to set up very well for him. But I'm not going to include him just because I'm going to have a little bit of fun in this race, and I'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. But I want to get to Gufo because I do agree with Eric that if he was ridden how he was in the Belmont Derby in 2020, he could win races. And, he'd won this race last year, so he has an affinity for the turf course. He can get over it, and occasionally Rosario can ride him right. So, it's not like he can't win. It's just when he is held so far back, he's never going to win one of those kind of races. But I can never pick him because I can never guarantee that that's going to happen. And he's run third too many times for me to want to be with him when he runs third. But maybe this will be the time like it was last year, but I'm okay with him beating me if that is the case. Channelmaker and Tribuven, I already talked about a little bit earlier. Rock Emperor, don't want any part of. I want to get to Soldier Rising because I have been talking about Soldier Rising ever since the Saratoga Derby last year, talking this horse up to no end, probably way longer than I should be, but I'm going to make a case for him to be able to win this race. 1.5 miles he wants to go. And he has been very consistent throughout the course of his career. And he has won 2 allowance races in good fashion. And then he was second in the Grand Couturier behind Channelmaker when Channelmaker walked. And Channelmaker's not going to walk in this race. Excuse me. Channelmaker's not going to walk in this race. And then, you go back to his race to start off the his first race of the year. I think that was a race where he was going 1.25 miles. It was a little bit too short for him. Definitely wants 1.5 miles, but it was also his first race off the layoff. So I can excuse him for that effort. The Red Smith, I thought that was absolutely his race, and it annoys me still that he didn't win it, but I don't think he was given a good ride in that spot. But the point is with Soldier Rising, I think 1.5 miles absolutely is his game. I like him at 1.5 miles. And that's why I'm going to pick Soldier Rising in this race because he is getting back to something that he likes. And his best career race, I thought, was the Jockey Club Derby, where he ran a very strong second behind Yabir. And he doesn't have to run against a horse as talented as Yabir in this race. And I think that these horses are all very evenly matched. Adamo is the leader in the clubhouse for this division, but in my opinion, leader in the clubhouse for these turf males going long doesn't say that many good things about a particular horse. And I don't think Adamo is unbeatable. So I'm going to try Soldier Rising in this race, and I'm going to get a price on him, which is certainly a good thing. And, half jokingly early on in this meet, I said that I could potentially pick him to win this race, not thinking that I would actually be picking him to win this race, but I'm going to pick him in this spot because he's worth a try. He likes the distance. I don't like Broome. Adamo's good, but he's definitely beatable. Everybody else is beatable in this spot. So, we'll take a horse at a bit of a price who, yes, he's inconsistent. Yes, he hasn't won a stakes race in the U.S., but 1.5 miles is certainly his game. Price is right. We'll try him out in this spot. And outside of that, that's pretty much it for my thoughts on the horses. So, Sammy, if you're still here and you want to give your thoughts, the floor is yours. And if you're not here, Andrew, you can go back with what you have for this race.
No, I'm still here. I was just listening to everything you guys were saying. You got to all the points you guys stated. I agree on a lot of stuff, especially what Andrew has been saying, because me and him were there on the Haskell Day. And, I don't know what the hell Joel was doing. Andrew, when they turned for home, was that horse still on the backstretch? Geez.
Quite possibly, yes.
And then if you look, I know. Me and Andrew were with me on Tribuven, right? Right? Or am I wrong?
What about Tribuven, Sammy?
Were you with me, with him in the Nine Nations on with me?
Oh yeah, I thought I still I don't know if I picked that race, but yeah, I would have picked him in that race, absolutely.
No, that horse had no excuses. Maybe you could say Mandy didn't open him up, but he just clearly showed he couldn't get 11 furlongs, and he was pressured a little bit more. As you go back to Gufo, I've been I feel like Joel, he's going to get, I think Clement's going to tell him, don't fuck this up, basically, I think Joel has a great possibility of 4 grade ones tomorrow. Good fellow likes the track. And he won the race last year, and, I'll take 9-2, especially in this wide open of a group. I really don't trust anyone. You can look at Adamo, but Adamo's only he loses a lot. He's always in the money. He's consistent, good horse. He's no lock, like Jack's been saying. I know Jack's been saying about Soldier Rising for a while. And that's a good pick. I still don't know how he didn't win the Grand Couturier. I don't know how he didn't get by, but I mean, for Jack, 15-1, longest shot. Come on, that's not a bad play, He likes the distance. He likes the track, Besides that, you guys really touched up on any other opinion I really had, So that's all I got to say.
All right, and before Andrew, before you give your thing, I'll just throw it out there because the race just happened. Society won the Charlestown Oaks in a procession. Okay, no one cares because no one cares about stuff at Charlestown. So Andrew, if you want to finish up what you have to say about this race, the floor is yours.
Yeah, the thing I forgot to mention, as I wasn't looking at my notes well enough, again, I have them nice, all and prepared here. They're useless if you don't look at them, is about Soldier Rising. Because everybody knows that the 2 trainers that I play the most are Chad Brown and Christophe Clement. And I love Christophe Clement. The guy makes me money left and right. The question is, why didn't I even mention Soldier Rising? I didn't even mention him before. And I'm picking him 4th, I might add. I have him picked 4th in this race just because it's Christophe. I have him picked 4th, and I don't have him further up, even though it's Christophe, because he hung to Channel Maker. I can't possibly understand how he did not go by in that race. He had him, and he did the impression of the grandest chandelier in the grandest mansion in this country that you could possibly find, or unfortunately, he hung about as bad as what the British did to some Americans in the pre-revolutionary times. So I really, really can't make an argument for him after that last race. I understand the wanting to get at him because you are going to get every bit, if not more than 15-1. You're getting who could arguably be my favorite trainer in Christophe Clement. You're getting a horse that wants the 1.5 miles. But how he could not get past my. I love Channel Maker. I love him to death. I hope he wins this race. He is not what he was in 2020. He's just an old hard knocker, and Soldier Rising could not get past my whole old hard knocker last time. So I will put him 4th from the Christophe angle, but I cannot use him on top. It just doesn't add up to me in this race, unfortunately, because I would have loved to get him in the top 3, and I should have mentioned him before. The other thing, Jack, is I took a very roundabout way in introducing my picks in this race before, so I just would like to clarify the numbers. It's the number 6, Gufo, on top, the number 1, Adamo, in 2nd, the number 9, Channel Maker, 3rd, and the number 8, Soldier Rising, 4th. 6-1-9-8 for me in the Sword Dancer.
All right, and now we're going to move on to race number 11, the Travers. And Andrew, you said you had a 90-second rant that you wanted to get to when we got to the Travers, so bring it on.
Yeah, and this is for all those voters out there who vote for Eclipse Awards, who vote in the top 3-year-old polls, and all that kind of stuff. I got into a Twitter argument last week with a couple of people who say that you shouldn't be trip handicapping Eclipse Awards in relation to Warlike Goddess last year, in what she did in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf, and how she had the races over here in America, but they voted for Love's Only You instead because she got beat by less than a length in that race. and all this stupid arguments. And then Epicenter was brought up. And a couple of people said that they could not vote for Epicenter right now as the best 3-year-old. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Mo Donegal's out for the year. Mo Donegal, I'd absolutely agree, would be the best 3-year-olds for the year if he's still running. Everybody knows I'm a huge Mo Donegal fan. I think all of us are that are sitting here right now. But you can't vote for a horse that is going to have his last race in June of 1 year and doesn't carry it through, barring a million different horses winning different races. All Epicenter does, and I am not a fan of him. I'm not picking him in this race. I'm not even picking him second in this race. All this horse does is show up time after time with good efforts. He won the Risen Star. Well, he won the Louisiana Derby, which is a grade 2, which could be a grade 1 because the Derby preps, they regraded all of those. The American Graded Stakes Committee, you all know I hate them. They need to be consistent with these Derby preps, and right now they're not. He won that race. He ran arguably the best race in the Derby. He ran arguably the best race in the Preakness. Do I think that he did? I'm not quite sure. And you know what? I really don't even think it matters if he ran the best in those 2 races. And then in the Jim Dandy, I didn't know what Rosario was doing with him, keeping him last. I was very excited because I was on the 2 Chads. And I thought, wow, this is great. He's got no chance. And then he comes and just reels them in. If you don't think this is the best 3-year-old colt in the country right now, just because he hasn't won a grade 1, I have no problem saying this. You are an idiot. You are a complete idiot. And I understand that championships need to be won by big races. I also understand that every race matters and that trips matter. And I don't think we can make a full argument who is going to win until the end of the year and we digest all the races. And that doesn't just mean grade 1s. Right now, though, Epicenter has been the most consistent. He's won a few big races. He ran super well in 2 Triple Crown races. If you don't think he's the best 3-year-old colt right now, coming from someone who's picking him 3rd in the Travers, who's not in love with him, you are incompetent.
I very much despise how Eclipse Awards are handed out. I am very much less open on it because it's my policy to not fight with people on social media because it's not very professional to do, and I don't like to do that. But I very much agree with everything that Andrew said. It's ridiculous to me the way that people talk about, oh, horses need grade 1. No, Andrew and I were going back and forth yesterday on Twitter. I was doing my famous sarcasm with grade 1s and stuff. I've mentioned this kind of tacitly, but we have on Racing Run have created our own system for Eclipse Awards, and that's how we're going to do it. And then we're going to, we're just going to say, these are the Eclipse Award winners. And then not even going to talk about what they officially end up being because it annoys me every single year how the awards are handed out because of just how ridiculous everybody is with voting. But you're absolutely right about Epicenter. And I'll let you start off with your Travers thoughts and let you get into why you're not picking Epicenter in this race and why you're picking the horse you picked in the Kentucky Derby, who also hung like an Irishman in 18th century UK. In the 18th century UK.
Thank you, Jack. And I want to preface this by saying I think this is a very good rendition of the Travers. I've said all year I don't think this 3-year-old group is that strong. I think they're a fun group, but I don't think they're that great. I also want to correct something you said. It's very minor, but I did not pick Zandon in the Derby. I picked Mo Donegal. I picked Zandon second, and I did say I was going to bet both of them to win, and I did bet both of them to win. So yeah, I needed Zandon, and it would have been great if he won, but he was my second choice. Why am I picking against Epicenter? Well, I'm kind of negating the argument I just made that he's the best 3-year-old with. He's proven he can lose races. And I get last time he easily beat Zandon. Early voting just did not show up. I think he's better than that. Doesn't mean I'm going to be using him in this race, but I just can't take 7-5. This is from an odds perspective. I do not think that Epicenter is 7-5 to win this race at all. I think the gap between him and Zandon and even an Artorias is very, very small. And how am I possibly going to make money in this race if I was going to play it? And you heard start of the video or a little bit into the video that I'm not playing any of these races because I just don't want to bet Saratoga. I think you have to try to get Epicenter out of the exacta. Unless you have hundreds of dollars to play on the race, then that's a different story. But if you're a normal, cheap gambler like me who can't afford big bets, I think you have to try to get Epicenter out of the exacta. And the angle I'm going to take is that Zandon is this year's Code of Honor. Now, Code of Honor won the Travers 3 years ago. Code of Honor had a nice Triple Crown prep race. I think it was the one in between the Holy Bull and the Florida Derby.
It was a Fountain of Youth.
The Fountain of Youth. Yeah, he had one nice Derby prep that he won. Then he ran very well in the Derby itself. He wound up getting elevated to second after the max security DQ. And I believe he won the Dwyer. Now, Zandon finished second in the Jim Dandy, but they actually had, I believe, identical speed figures in those two races. And even though I'm drifting away from figures, I still think it's a very common race that they ran. And even if Code of Honor maybe ran a bit faster, Zandon had to run an eighth of a mile longer. Another thing with Zandon, I believe that this time he's going to get to do what he wants to do and sit a little bit further back. Now, he was up on the pace in the Remsen a little bit last year. But other than that, he's been more successful staying further back in races. And the Jim Dandy, he was sitting right off his stablemate. I don't think he loved that. And it may have inhibited his usual run. I also think a mile and a quarter might be better for him, which he's going to get. Last thing is the racetrack. I like the way the racetrack is going to be setting up for horses coming from behind the way it's been lately. What does the rain do? I really don't know. It's very iffy on that. But I'm going to use Zandon on top in this race just because I feel like this is his chance to get what he needs to win. Kind of like a Gufo. I'm going with the same angle as that. Who am I taking second? Well, I said there were going to be two Chad Brown exactas on here, and here it is. I'm taking Artorias out of the Curlin. Very much like Accretive, I think he's just getting better, and I think this is his chance to step up and show that he's a contender in this 3-year-old division. He's not far behind from the numbers perspective, and there's no reason he can't take another step forward. He easily handled those horses last time, including a Creative Minister who hasn't ran terrible races amongst the better group of 3-year-olds. Epicenter, I said, was third. My fourth choice is really not important. I think if you want to try and make the super pay more, you get a Gilded Age in there for Bill Mott, who ran well to close in the Curlin. Or you take the speed and say early voting is going to run better this time. Because let's look at it. We all said that in the Travers, there was going to be a lot of speed. There is not a lot of speed in this Travers. It does not have several horses we thought would be up and close to the pace. And early voting, I believe, is going to be by himself. The question is, do I think he can handle a mile and a quarter? The answer to that from me is no. And can he hang on for fourth? I think he can, but is it worth it from a super perspective? I really don't know. That's a choice you have to make. So my top three is 8, 5, 6, and for fourth, either the 4 or the 7. You notice I haven't brought up the number 2, Rich Strike, who won the freaking Kentucky Derby of all races. I just think that really set up well for him that day. He got the perfect ride. And I get the Belmont. He was last. He really never had a chance. But he couldn't even pass Creative Minister. And that says a lot to me. And then Cyberknife. why am I not taking Cyberknife, a horse that has won his last 2 races, the Haskell and the Matt win, one of them being a grade 1. The Derby, you could pretty much throw that out. He was close to the fast pace, whatever. He won the Arkansas Derby, he won an allowance race before that. He's a good horse. I just don't like the Haskell as a race. And he got a perfect setup in that Haskell as well. I think that 7-2 on him, he might not stay. I think it might drift up a little bit, but I think that even at 9-2, 5-1, he's still possibly a takeout reducer. I don't think that he matches up with the top group of 3-year-olds. I think the Jim Dandy was a much better race. So I'm not going to use either the 1 or the 2 in here. I'm sticking more towards the outside. So finally, once again, 8-5-6 for this guy in the Travers. Not sponsored Travers, just the Travers.
I'm going to run through the first 4 horses. I'm going to toss it to Sammy, and then I'm going to run through the latter 4 horses just because I want to reduce a little bit of the strain on myself because as you can tell, I am starting to feel it a little bit. Haven't done this much talking in a long time, and I still do have the remnants of whatever illness I had when I was in France. But I'm going to start off with Cyberknife. I never have liked Cyberknife. I was wrong about him in the Arkansas Derby, yes, but I was also very wrong about him in the Haskell. I don't care. I am very much in agreement with Andrew that the Haskell I don't like the Haskell as a race. The best horse out of it was Jack Christopher, and Jack Christopher is a sprinter, and we know that he wasn't going to get that far there. Taba, too much of a mystery for me, but I'm willing to find the side of he's not that good of a horse. And so if you take it from that perspective, Cyberknife didn't beat anybody in the Haskell. He definitely didn't beat anybody in the Matt win. And, I know that Rattle and Roll came back and won the St. Louis Derby last weekend, but I mean, Rattle and Roll winning the St. Louis Derby is not necessarily something that I look at and say, okay, well, that means that Cyberknife has beaten quality horses. Cyberknife has tripped out in his 2 grade 1 victories. He absolutely tripped out in the Arkansas Derby. Andrew, you mentioned he got the perfect setup in the Haskell, which is a race that looks relatively weak. So I am very against Cyberknife in this race. If I had done the preview, I would have absolutely gone on the same railing that I went on Cyberknife before the Kentucky Derby, before the Haskell. I'm doing it to a lesser extent here, but I don't like Cyberknife at all in this race because I think he's good. I don't think he's any better than good. I think the horses from the Jim Dandy are all better than him, and I think the horses from the Curlin are better than him, even Gilded Age. I don't think Gilded Age is going to get the same kind of trip as Cyberknife is, so I don't think Gilded Age will finish. Gilded Age may not finish in front of Cyberknife, but I still think Gilded Age on talent is better than Cyberknife, but that's beside the point. Move on to Rich Strike. Go back to what Jay Privman said when we had him on for the Belmont. 95% of the Kentucky Derby for him was that pace setup. He is absolutely not getting that pace setup in the Travers, and the pace setup is not there. Yes, he had to be able to win the Kentucky Derby, but he absolutely needed that pace setup. So no thanks for me for Rich Strike. Ain't Life Grand's a little bit interesting. That's a post-time thing as to whether or not he's a horse I'll throw some money on. I liked his Iowa Derby victory a lot. Of course, I had him in that spot. He's the lone double-digit winner I've had on the podcast this year, so he has taken care of me when I have needed him this year. And then for Gilded Age, I had him in the Curlin. I thought he closed up really well there. I'm going to use him underneath in this race. He would have been the horse that I would use in the trifecta had I been able to make. I have a trifecta for this race, but he's the horse that I'm going to use underneath in there. I like him in this spot. If there was a little bit more speed, I could have talked myself into picking him to win. Can't do it because there's not enough speed for him in this spot. But I do think that he's a nice improving horse. I had him at Maidan. It was a little bit too much too soon for him, but since coming back from there, Bill Mott has campaigned him really well, and I think he's improving. And if the Woodward, I wish the Woodward was running 1.25 miles because I would take him back in the Woodward. If Life is Good wasn't there, which we're starting to get into really handicapping stuff too far ahead. But I like Gilded Age a lot. I just don't think he's a win candidate for this race. As I said, I'm going to give myself a break. Sammy, what are your thoughts on this race?
First, I just want to say that I agree with Andrew on the racing committee and, etc. For me, honestly, I hate to do it, but I just think Epicenter is just better than this group. We all agree that Mo Donegal, in our opinion, is the best 3-year-old, and that pretty much shows last week after what Ness did, and he beat her pretty comfortably, I would say. But back to this race. This horse is the best 3-year-old, and his Jim Danny was so impressive. Joel never even went to the whip, but he just easily passed Zandon in early voting. Early voting, that was not early voting. He's a better horse than what he showed, and I want to be surprised if he ran well in this race, because that's not early voting. He's not that bad of a horse. But this crop is just so inconsistent, so it doesn't surprise me. Back to Cyber Knife, what Jack was saying. This horse just really has never impressed me. I know he technically isn't inconsistent, but in my opinion, he is. He goes the Arkansas Derby. That wasn't all right. The Kentucky Derby, just throw that out. The Matt win, I still don't know how he ever got that bob. I think that might have been the luckiest head bob I've ever seen.
He didn't get the bob. I'm convinced he didn't get it. I know he got it. I'm convinced he didn't.
I don't know how he got it.
I'm convinced he didn't get it.
And in the high school, that race was a highway, and he went up the rail, and I feel like I don't know if you noticed, Andrew, on that day, but didn't like every dirt winner come on the rail?
I believe quite a few. I can't say I can guarantee that, though. I don't have I was more focused on turf that day, so I don't really remember.
But he rode a gold. Point, not to cut you off, but you're definitely right. He did ride a gold rail, so you do have that to mention.
And Taba wins that race if he doesn't have an idiot riding him, But for me, I just first I'll say this. For a couple months, I was feeling I was texting my friends like back in like June or something that I think Xanon could win the Travers. I think he still can. But after what I saw in the Jim Danny and had Epicenter there, I just feel like if he shows up and gets a good ride, I just think he's better, That's what I think.
All right, I'll move on to the latter four because I have to get to them. Arturius was a horse that I really thought I was going to pick in this race, and I backed out on toward the end because I'm afraid that he's going to get a lot. I'm afraid he's going to get Wise Guide to all hell, and I don't want to take him in a race where I'm not quite sure if he's the best in the race. And it's just, I'm apprehensive about him. I was very impressed, as most people were, with the Curlin, and I think he's a very nice, improving horse. Pennsylvania Derby time is going to be very interesting. We'll see how he runs in this race, and I would assume that the Pennsylvania Derby is a very logical spot to see him come back in. And even looking into next year, very strong 4-year-old horse. He'll keep going forward. So plenty of good things to say about him. I'm including him in the top 3, but just not on top. I'm going to pick Epicenter in this race. I didn't want to pick Epicenter. For a long time, I didn't think I was going to, but with just how Charge It not being here certainly made it much more likely that I was going to go to Epicenter. And while he finds a way to lose races, and that's why I didn't pick him in the Jim Dandy, I think at this point it's very difficult to find a way to not pick him. I agree with Andrew. I don't think he's 7-5. I don't think he should be 7-5. I don't want to take him at 7-5, and I think he's going to be shorter than 7-5. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be even money in this race, but at the same time, I'm trying to pick winners, and Epicenter shows up every single time, so there's a good chance he is going to be able to show up to win this race. I'm going to take him to win. Hopefully Joel doesn't do any stupid nonsense and cost him the race like we know that he is very much capable of doing. He does the right thing, gets him, and Epicenter can win his grade 1, and everybody can finally shut up about that. Oh, Epicenter hasn't won a grade 1 yet this year. I'm so sick of hearing that. If he just wants to win this race just so I don't have to hear that anymore, that would be fine for me. Moving on to early voting. Last time, I'm convinced that the lead has not been the place to be at Saratoga this meet, and that certainly showed itself in the Jim Dandy. And, you could certainly take early voting down. The price is certainly going to be there because everybody's jumped off him like he sank like the Titanic. And I think it's certainly worth a try going back to him. I just don't want to take early voting because I'm still convinced that the lead has not been the place to be throughout the course of the meet. So, but he's the right price, and he's certainly one that you could include in your triple. I'm including Gilded Age because I have to get super crazy with my horses, with the third horse that I include in my triples, but he's certainly the much more logical horse because even if he's not winning the race, he'll certainly be hanging around toward the end and will likely finish 3. And then Zandon, I'm sorry, Andrew, he's actually the one that I think is the least likely to win this race, but I think he's also very likely to run well. Why do I think that? Oh, I'll go back to what I said about him at the Kentucky Derby. He loses to better horses. On 3 occasions now, he's lost to Epicenter, who was the better horse. Risen Star, Kentucky Derby, Jim Dandy, Epicenter was better. Mo Donegal was better. That's 4 occasions that Zandon has lost to better horses in his career. He's a nice horse, but he doesn't like to beat better horses. And I also don't think the Bluegrass victory was as shiny as everybody else says it was. It was a nice victory for him. I don't need to relitigate that race, but I think he's the least likeliest winner of this race, but I think he's very likely to run a credible race because he does show up every single time, but I'm not including him because I'm working my triple out to be Epicenter, Artorias, and Gilded Age. So 6, 5, 4 in that order in the Travers. Difficult to not pick Epicenter. I'll ask you guys, did you think about any long shot underneath in this race? And if so, what would that horse have been? And do you think it's possible that we see one of these price horses, either Gilded Age or Ain't Life Grand, or potentially Rich Strike, because he's probably also going to be double digit? Any chance one of them hits the board? And if so, which one of them is it going to be?
Well, as I said before, I think it would be Gilded Age. I really like that Curl in second place finish. Just couldn't get to Artorias. I doubt he'll get to Artorias again, but I definitely think that if early voting craps out, for lack of a better word, at the 1.25 miles, he could definitely pick up 4th. And if he improves a lot, he can run 3rd. Look, as I've said, I think at least once, if not twice on this show, this is horse racing. Horses have bad days. And if enough horses have bad days, all you have to do is be your normal self to beat them. So I could see him finishing as good as 3rd in a sane scenario. In a sane scenario. Yeah. So I would say him of all the long shots. And I don't think he's going to be 30 to 1. Now, he should be 30 to 1 from a win perspective because these are win odds, of course, talking about when we're talking about all these morning line odds. But I definitely think he will take a bit of wise guy money, for lack of a better term.
I do agree with you on that front, and I think he's going to take a lot of money in the show pool. Sammy, are you still here? What are your thoughts on the double-digit horses in this race? I know you kind of... I don't know if you mentioned Rich Strike when you were talking.
No, don't even bring up that horse. If you want to play it smart, I guess you consider early voting. But he's not double digit.
I mean,
but
it wouldn't be the biggest shock for me if he was double digit because just of how I think this is going to be a very weirdly bet race outside of Epicenter being the logical favorite.
Let me say this: you think Epicenter hits 4 to 5?
No, I think he'll be even money at the shortest.
Yeah, if you want to play this race a little smart, you have 3 double digit horses, and the one I would take the most is Gilded Age because I feel like he could pass the tired horses, especially early voting burns out. So if I were to take 30 to 1 shot, I mean that horse at 30 to 1, it might be worth the show play. Like you've been saying, Jack. I could see it. I really could see it.
Oh, Andrew, here's one for you. Are the Ortiz brothers going to squeeze Epicenter out of the gate?
I hate to say this because I don't condone bad riding like that, but it would be in their interest to sort of do that, but do it subtly. Like make Rosario and Epicenter uncomfortable. I don't want to see anything outside the boundaries of the rules, and even a little less than that. I don't want to see anything that's stupid. I think even the thing that Rant Ortiz did, and I said his first name the way I wanted to say it. I want to clarify that. What he did to Happy Saver in the Whitney, even though he didn't technically foul him, I did not think that was a class move. But I think from a race riding perspective, if they could manage to kind of just subtly get him out of there a little bit, it would be to their advantage. So I definitely think it's a possibility. I don't know the chances. I mean, Jose needs to go to the lead. He should not be worrying about squeezing Epicenter. He should just be worried about going to the front. That's all he should be worried about. What Arturius and the brother who's more prone to cutting people off, Irad, what he does is more in question. I think Jose, in this situation, will do the right thing and just get his horse out there and not worry about him. But if he wanted to do it, if they wanted to do it, they absolutely can. And if it in any way is a foul or is something that hinders Epicenter's chances severely, I want to see action taken because I'm tired of seeing this nonsense, this hurting, which is even a more minor thing, at these fouls that not only do they not come down from the stewards in the race order, but a lot of times we don't even see suspensions from it. And these guys get to pick when their suspensions are. So they really suspensions. I want to see stuff actually come out of when there's incidents. Let's have a clean race with no incidents and not worry about it. But can they do it? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll find out very quickly on Twitter if they do it, how happy people are with that ending up happening. Sammy, you weren't here when we talked about the earlier races on the card. So if you want to talk about your thoughts on the Jerk Forgo and the whatever the hell, the Ballston Spa, you can give your thoughts on them. I imagine you're not too different from what we are and too different from the morning line, but the floor is yours if you want to talk about a couple of those races.
All I got to say is it's Jackie's Warrior time. That's all I got to say. You know, but back to it, I just think it's going to be a little chalky. I think in the Ballston Spa, technical analysis, I think she's just better than them. You know, if you want to get cute, maybe go with LaMista, with Pratt. Pratt's been actually been riding really well this week. I think he had 4 winners the other day. And I know Andrew probably made a couple dollars on that Clermont horse that won.
I haven't bet Saratoga in a month, almost. So, no, I haven't made any money. I actually haven't even been paying that much attention. Just watching replays to see how the track's doing and watching races that my dad's been betting. That's all.
But it's good to see. I think the Jerkens could be won by Jack Christopher. That's actually a really good field. You know, that's a good addition of the race. But I just think Jack Christopher is better. You know, the one race which I think is going to be wide open is the Sport Dancer. I think you're going to get if you get a price in that, it's going to pay well. But if you want to really make money on this course, in my opinion, you got to go to the maiden races or some other allowance race. The 7th race is really interesting to me because it's a 5.5 turf sprint. You know, turf sprints are always wide open, especially on the grass. I mean, I don't know what I just said. Especially when it's a big field of sprinting. That's all I got to say.
Hold on just a second. And I actually forgot that there was one more race that we have to talk about, and that's the Ballerina. I don't know if I told you that we were going to talk about this. I don't think I told you we were going to talk about this, Andrew. And so I don't know if you're prepared. I am prepared, and Sammy, I think you are also. You do also have some things to say about this. Andrew, do you have anything to say about the Ballerina? Do you want us to come back to you and so you can put stuff together for it, or would you sit this one out?
Please come back to me. I'd like to take a look at it. I have not looked at it at all. I have no idea who's in it. I mean, I have a rough idea, a big name or two, yeah, but otherwise, no. So, yeah, come back to me.
Okay, Sammy, I'll let you go first because I think you have some thoughts on this race. So I'll let you get into the race first, and then I'll get into it, and then we'll let Andrew get into it.
Before we get on, did you see the Charlestown? Did anyone see the Charlestown?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that Art Collector won the Charlestown Classic by 5 again. Yeah, good for him. He'll win in whatever stupid race afterwards. Moving on.
You know, for the Ballerina, for me, I know me and Jack were actually talking about this the other day. You know, we're talking about the sprint division. You know, the Philly Mare sprint division. I mean, most people think it's bad, but like for me, I feel like you have some good horses and you just have some average horses you'll see running for every years. I mean, how many years have we felt like I felt like I've seen the name Obligatory, CC, Fellow Sophia? They've been around forever, you know. And for me in the Ballerina, you know, you either go with Obligatory or 7-2, which is not bad. First of all, I cannot take CC at 2-1. If you take CC at 2-1, then I don't know what to say. I mean, she could absolutely win this race, but I will look at you have a lot more value in some horses. For me, I've been impressed with this horse for a little while. You know, Goodnight Olive. You know, she's actually really impressed me. She's had some nice wins, and you know, in this Philly and Mare division, it's not the strongest, and she's a newcomer to the division, and she's a nice price with Irad. You know, I'll look towards that way, and if she'll lose, we'll move on. It's all right, you know, but that's what I like. Goodnight Olive.
Yeah, Eric and I are both picking Goodnight Olive in this race. It's kind of, you know, a little bit of what Sammy was talking about, at least from my perspective. I don't know why. I imagine that Eric is probably on her for similar reasons, but the reason I'm on Goodnight Olive is because, you know, you have these horses, Bella Sophia, Obligatory, CC, have kind of, you know, traded blows, not necessarily with each other, but they've traded blows around the Philly and Mare sprint division, and they're not always the most consistent. They can lose races and all this fun stuff. And so, are you going to go back to one of them? Or are you going to take a horse that hasn't proven that they're or that hasn't shown anything against the top? I guess, for lack of a better term, the top level in this group. And I'm going to kind of take that with Goodnight Olive if we haven't seen her against, you know, against the CCs, the Obligatories, the Bella Sophias, the Lady Rockets. And so, with that being the case, since we haven't seen her against this group, there isn't an indication that she can't do it. And because I don't want any part of CC, because after that last effort, I am not wanting to do anything with Bella Sophia. I'm not the biggest fan of Lady Rocket. I don't want to make a case for a horse that I'm not crazy about. I'm going to go to a horse that hasn't run in stakes company yet, and so that's Goodnight Olive. Eric's also picking Goodnight Olive in this race, so we're all in the same boat in here. I wonder what the price is going to be on Goodnight Olive, because you know you do have the reigning Breeders' Cup winner and Bella Sophia, who is definitely going to take money, and Obligatory, who's a Grade 1 winner. This will be an interestingly bet race, and it's going to be an interesting race. It's probably a preview of what a good chunk of the Philly and Mare Sprint is going to be. You know, absent a couple of the 3-year-old fillies, but 3-year-old fillies and Kamari. But for the most part, this is probably a good chunk of what the Philly and Mare Sprint is going to look like. And it's an interesting race on paper, but Goodnight Olive's my pick. Andrew, are you all set, or do you need a few more minutes? And Sammy and I can stall talking about something else if that's the case.
I actually just took a peek at this race, and I actually don't know if I care to give a pick for this race. It's not really important to me. I don't care much for this division. One thing I will say is CC 2-1 is an absolute joke. That's ridiculous. I'd lean toward Bella Sophia, but Obligatory beat her last time, so I don't know what to say about that. I really kind of just don't want to give a pick for this race at all.
That's okay if you want to take a pass on it. That's fine. I just had to cover it because I needed to get the record out for Racing Rundown. So that being said, does anybody else have anything to add on this card? We're going to end off in a couple of minutes, but just any final thoughts from any of you? Sammy, I don't know if you want to touch on any of the other races. You know, there's the Pat O'Brien at Del Mar. I don't know if you want to say anything about that. And then Andrew, if you have any final thoughts on just anything on this card, feel free to air those.
You know, I really don't got anything else to say. I'm just looking forward to tomorrow because tomorrow's gonna be a fun day of racing, especially since I'm there. That's gonna be really cool. You know, that's it.
Sammy in Saratoga, and we were actually texting a little bit while I was listening to the first 15 minutes of Jack's show here, and I was very happy to hear that Sammy has fallen in love with Saratoga, even after just one day. While it's not my favorite track, and it will never be my favorite track, I do absolutely appreciate it for sure. So I was happy to hear that he really enjoys it. My one other thing I had on the card, I did have stuff for earlier races. I kind of it wasn't important to me. The race after the Travers, to me, if I was going to play one horse to win on this card, it was going to be the race after the Travers. And that is the number 1 Creasa, first-time starter for Dave Dunk with Johnny Velasquez. This is the only firster in a race. You guys know I absolutely love that angle. And when Johnny Velasquez rides for Dave Dunk, you generally tend to get very good results. So I am going to go with that. I see the ROI there. It doesn't look good. I actually can't believe that when they hook up, it's that little. But I remember cashing on them a few times. So I'm absolutely going to go with them. And even if you don't like that angle anyway, with Velasquez riding for Donk, if that's not good enough for you, the only firster in the race, and this is absolutely a race where it seems as if you do not need to be very good to win. And there's also not that much speed. So if Velasquez can just break from the rail with this horse, I don't believe Dave Dunk's firsters tend to break that bad. If he could just get him out of there and get him in a forward position, he'll have the shortest trip around the far turn on the rail. And Velasquez is very crafty, riding very well, just got his 1,000th Saratoga win. I expect good things from this number 1 Creasa. That would be my big win bet of the day if I was playing.
All right, and with that being said, one more thing. What do you guys expect the late pick 5 to pay? My head is not in it to do math right now, so I am going to take a pass on this. But what do you guys think the late pick 5 is going to pay?
Is it late pick 5 races 7 through 11, or is it 8 to 12?
8, 9, 10, 11. I'm not sure. Let me check.
Well, there's going to be. Let me make this clear. There's going to be two. There's got to be two. I haven't looked, but there's got to be 2 pick 5s in there. There's the normal early pick 5 we don't care about. Then there's got to be the pick 5 that ends in the Travers. There's got to be the late pick 5 that ends in race 13. So that would have to start in race number 9. So are you referring to the pick 5 that ends in the Travers? Because that absolutely has to be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume that that's what the comment is saying, is the late pick 5 that ends with the Travers. If not, you can clarify which late pick 5 you're referring to, but I'm just gonna assume that it's the Travers one.
If we're referring to the Travers, I think it'll pay in the $500-$600 range. I don't think you're going to have all favorites in the sequence. I think the Sword Dancer will start to separate some payouts in there. I definitely don't think the Personal Instant is just locked into Clairiere. So even if the other favorites come in, and look, I did not pick the favorite in Travers. So, and look, it doesn't have to be Epicenter. If Epicenter decides not to win tomorrow, somebody else wins the Travers, you're going to automatically have a bigger pad. I'd expect probably around the $500-$600 range.
All right, and with that being said, we're going to end it off now because I am very exhausted. Like I said, I feel like I got run over by the plane, and then after getting run over by the plane, they ran over me with the thing that pulls the plane on the tarmac. So I need to get to sleep because it is, let me do the quick math. It is 4:00 in the morning to me. So I need to get into a bed because it has been a long day for me. Next week, we'll be back recapping the Travers races and then getting into the closing weekend of Saratoga. Geez, I know we're already talking about closing weekend at Saratoga. It is insane. And then we're going to get to the fake Belmont meet, which I'm not going to call Belmont because it's not Belmont, and I hate that branding decision. But we're not going to get into that now. I'll see you next time. Have a good one, and thank you for stopping by.
Thank you, Jack, for having us on as well.